Hello everybody and welcome to the Real Real Estate Rundown put on by Real Realtors. My name is James Talbot. I'm a realtor here at Keller Williams, Antelope Valley.
And I'm Jessica Trizuto, also a realtor here in Antelope Valley, Keller Williams.
It's okay if you don't know where the Antelope Valley is. We're going to tell you. So we are realtors out of Palmdale, California. Sounds nice because it's California, but it's okay. It's okay. It's the high desert.
I like it.
It's the high desert.
I like it.
We're about an hour drive time north of Los Angeles, about 60 miles north of LA.
It's pretty close to Los Angeles.
We're about a half hour north of, the easiest way to put it is, well, where's Palmdale, where's Lancaster? Because Palmdale and Lancaster make up the Antelope Valley. The easiest way to put it is it's either an hour north of Los Angeles by drive time, or it's about a half hour north of Magic Mountain down in Santa Clarita. A lot of people have been there as well. You may have driven through it
context.
Going to LA. That's normally where I found most people have figured out where Palmdale and Lancaster is.
And before moving here, I have heard of Lancaster. I couldn't tell you where on the map it is, but
yeah.
Now I have more context living down here and being around.
So we're in the high desert. The high desert, we're about 3,000 feet in elevation, give or take. We are part of the Mojave Desert. We are North LA County and Southern Kern County. There's about 500,000 people in the Antelope Valley altogether, 300,000 between Lancaster and Palmdale. They're actually fairly large towns, and most people don't realize that driving through. Yeah, it's actually a fairly big valley, about 500,000 people. We're what you call a bedroom or commuter community, and what that is people who can't afford LA move to the San Fernando Valley. People who can't afford the San Fernando and Santa Clarita Valley move up here to Lancaster, Palmdale.
Now there is a downside to that. You do have the 1 hour commute time.
1 hour commute time without traffic.
Without traffic.
Without traffic.
But you can find affordable housing, so that's the good part about it.
So everyone knows about LA traffic. So if you commute down to LA or you commute down to the valley, and the valley is the San Fernando Valley for those of you who are from California. With traffic, it can be a while depending on what time you leave. My dad used to commute, and he was saying if he left at 5:30. It'd take him about an hour. If he left at like 6, it would take him 3 hours. Just because traffic, and that's when everyone was.
So you might leave a little early.
Yeah.
But you'll be in the car less time. So bring a book, something to read, once you get there.
The trade-off is though you can get a 3,000 square foot house for $350,000.
Under $500,000 in California right now, I hear is unheard of.
It's ridiculous. You look at the Bay Area, right? Because of the tech boom. They're in a bit of a bubble, I think. I think that's unsustainable. But
it's going up, and people are cashing out on their equities, but because of that, they have to then leave the state.
Well, like your family's planning is what a lot of people are planning is cash out, and then they're moving to other states. They're moving to Nevada, Texas, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, Colorado, a lot of these surrounding states where you're close enough to family in California, but you don't have the cost of California. So not only the home costs in California, but the taxes and everything. We have Nevada right next door, and they have no state income tax.
No state income tax, so you're taking home more of what you earn.
Yeah, and then even if you move to, let's say, Arizona, who does have a state income tax, it's much lower than California's.
Interesting. So let me tell you this story. I posted our open house on this a group page, and another realtor. So it's a home in Palmdale listed for under $400,000. I think it's $319,000. I have to pull it up, and I can put it in the show notes. But I posted this on the open house. The open house flyer, I posted it, and another realtor from Texas said, "Wow, I didn't know that they were making homes under $500,000 in California anymore." Yeah. And I go, it's not common, but you do have to drive a little bit. But the main cities, they're starting. I mean, it's going to go up.
Yeah.
It's going to keep going up, and then what?
So LA County had 90,000 last year. 90,000 more people move out of the county than move into it. Because where we're at in North LA County, we bump up against Kern County, and then we also bump up against just a little bit east is San Bernardino County. San Bernardino by land size is the largest county in California. LA County, I believe, by population is the largest. Wow. But you cross that county line and gas becomes cheaper because LA County taxes are higher than San Bernardino County taxes. Or even, the funniest one is we have an Avenue A, and that's really the start of Lancaster and the start of LA County versus Kern County. The houses on the north side, which would be the Kern County side, are cheaper than the houses on the LA County side, and it could be literally across the street.
It's the name.
Yeah, simply because of the county.
Name, the county.
And the county
Los
taxes
Angeles.
and all that. And
Well, doesn't everyone want to live in Los Angeles?
Yeah.
There's lots of things to do. There's lots of things to do with your family.
Yeah, quit moving here. We have enough people.
But if you're willing to make that hour drive just so you can afford a home,
yeah,
there are some sacrifices you can make in the short term that will give you long-term stability, long-term wealth, right?
Yeah. I know people down in LA who are paying $3,000 a month in rent, and I know there are people in LA paying $3,000 in rent for a studio.
Wow. I was going to say, there's probably no walls. It's just, there's a bathroom and maybe a kitchen or a sink and a studio.
And you move up here and, it's not the most exciting area.
I don't know. I can disagree with that. I think you can have fun anywhere you go.
Have fun, but there's not, like, you do have to, there are times where you have to go down to LA to get things done, like, to do things. But you're only an hour away from everything. I always joke, like, how far away is that? An hour. Because it feels like we're an hour away from everything.
True.
Especially as a sports fan, I'm an hour away from the Dodgers, I'm an hour away from the Lakers, I'm an hour away from the Rams, I'm an hour away from the LA Kings. Like, there's Anaheim Angels aren't too far. There's all sorts of sports. And I agree with you.
I agree with you when you think of it like that. Look how close we are to everything. And what about Vegas?
Yeah, we can, from where we're at now, we're about 4 hours from Vegas. We're about an hour to an hour and a half from the beach. You're about an hour and a half from skiing, so the mountains like Big Bear and.
Well, you're reminding me of this joke they always talk about in California, where you can do, like, you can ski and surf, like, all in the same day.
Yeah.
And I think there's more to that, but it's amazing.
Yeah.
You're just willing to drive a little bit.
If you're not from California, or if for some reason you're listening, you're not from the U.S., I don't think people understand just how big California actually is, though. And I understand Alaska and Texas are much, much larger, but LA and San Francisco are, just to give you some context, LA and San Francisco are about a 6 to 7 hour drive from each other. Lake Tahoe, which is where I'm actually from, to Lancaster is about a 6 hour drive. To cover the entire state, so if you went from maybe like Eureka, which is North California, it's basically the top of the state, just south of Oregon, down to the state, the line with Mexico, down to like San Diego or some of those lower areas, it would take you a full day. Of just driving straight through. It would take a full day.
It's huge. Basically the whole, or a chunk of the coast.
Yeah.
I would say. And I think that's what it is. I think everyone wants to live close to the coast.
Yeah.
So if you look at LA and San Francisco, they are close. I can drive to the beach or I can drive to the mountains. It's like this central location, and we haven't even dipped on the weather.
Yeah.
Because I think that is above all other factors.
You're talking about the coast. If you look at the coast, if you look at pricing trends, the ones that hold their value the best are homes on the beach. They are the best. They are the best to hold their value. Now, the rest of California might get hit hard once you start moving inland, but the best to hold value is beach homes.
Well, you know what that tells me is that we, as the market, value that the most.
Yeah.
So that's interesting to look at and pay attention to. Everyone wants to live on the beach, right?
Yeah, I mean that's.
Or not.
I'm sure some don't, but that's a lot of people's dream is a beach home. But they do hold their value the best. So weather.
Interesting. Yeah, because so as we record this podcast, it did snow here in Palmdale.
It did snow here, which doesn't happen very often. It happens once every few years. Now, we are about 3,300 feet in elevation, so we're not sea level. There's a reason we call it the high desert. There is a high desert and a low desert. The high desert is Lancaster, Palmdale, Victorville, Valley, Hesperia, that kind of area. So the Victor Valley and the Antelope Valley make up the high desert. The low desert is Palm Springs, Palm Desert, some of those areas. So the Palm Springs area makes up the low desert. So we're about 3,000 to 3,500 in elevation up here. We have mountains. We have actual mountains, so they get snow normally every year.
And
but down
the
here,
weather
the
is
valley floor, we don't.
And the weather's nice. I mean, it may get cold or warmer than, say, Los Angeles.
Yeah.
But as far as extremes go, we don't really see that. In California, now I'm talking if you step back, in California as a whole.
California as a whole, it depends on what part of the state you're in. San Francisco, LA, San Diego, they're always kind of what they are, just in weather. Here in the Antelope Valley.
Mild.
Yeah, they're all kind of mild, a little humid.
And that's what I mean is desirability. So
Yeah.
in talking about real estate, that everyone wants to come to California.
Yeah.
Oh, look at the weather. Look at the...
Yeah, there's definitely a glitz. There's a glitz and glam to California. You know, when you're from California.
movie stars.
Yeah. Oh, you live on the beach. Like, I've lived in California my entire life, and I've never once lived near the beach. I've lived in the mountains, and I've lived in the desert, and people don't even realize that those things are in California. So I've lived at 7,000 feet, and I've lived at 3,000 feet. I've lived in desert, mountain, cold, warm. So the high desert specifically. So Lancaster, Palmdale. Very hot summers, cold winters. Very nice falls and springs though. The week and a half of fall and spring that we get every year is really nice. But not a lot of rain. This has been the last week or so has been an exception. But very windy.
And wind is common up here.
Yeah.
If you think about being on top of the hill.
Yeah.
There's nothing blocking. Kind of. I feel like in the Bay Area there's more of a blockage.
Yeah.
So you reduce the winds.
Yeah.
And up here it's like.
Like you go to New York and you get into the city, and it gets windy there, but the skyscrapers are blocking you. The only problem is, it creates like wind tunnels.
Oh, so you have to make sure
it like focuses it. Yeah, if you're walking through it, it'll like really hit you hard.
You gotta pay attention.
In the summers, we get up to really about 110, but we really sit probably in the 100 to 105 range in the summers. In the winters, it can get below freezing, but again, if you've lived in real winters, like you've lived in the mountains or you've lived in the Midwest, it's probably a mild winter compared to those. But for Californians, it gets.
And that's what I mean with the extreme. Like, there might be some rain, but it's not all the time.
Yeah.
And up until last week, snow is is not common also. So, just it's interesting to just pay attention and.
But if you're gonna move up here, if you're gonna live here in the high desert, get used to the wind. That's the one you gotta get used to. And there are times where even if you've lived here your whole life, you won't be used to the wind. You'll walk out and it'll be blowing pretty hard. But it does get windy.
But you're like, man, I saved money on my mortgage.
Now that we've trashed it enough.
So please come live here.
Yeah. This is we told you it was real. This is what people who live here say. So it's really not as bad as you'll hear people especially know. They'll kind of bash it because it is a cheaper option to some of the other areas, and it's really not that bad of an area. There are bad areas, sure, but there's bad areas of every place you're going to live in.
Yeah.
You know, there's the bad neighborhoods and the dangerous neighborhood, whatever they are, the higher crime areas, all that kind of stuff. That's everywhere, though.
And you do have some people who only look at the negative. So when you do hear negative advice, just kind of think, oh, okay. But also explore the other options. Like, there's so much good to the high desert. Yeah.
Mainly the affordability. You look at, so West Palmdale, which we'll talk about quadrants. We'll talk about the quadrant of west and east up here in the AV later. But West Palmdale, which is, I guess, would probably be the most desirable and nicest area we have, is about $350,000 to $400,000 right now is the average sales price in that area.
Affordable. Which is
fairly, especially for California. Like, if you look at the context of the state, that's pretty affordable. West Lancaster's a little bit lower. It's about $320,000. East Lancaster's the lowest. It's somewhere between $250,000 and $300,000. And then you have East Palmdale kind of right in that middle range of about $280,000 to $320,000, depending on the neighborhood and the size. Because one of the things out here is my dad always says you could throw a rock and hit a bad neighborhood here, or throw a rock and hit an older neighborhood. There's houses in East Palmdale, West Palmdale, all of them where they're 2005 houses, and they're massive 2 stories, and then literally one neighborhood over is 1985 or 1955 single stories that are smaller, so the average sales price gets skewed a little bit.
That makes sense.
Yeah, so you have to look at affordability and really where you're.
But a lot of people I think nowadays, it's too expensive.
Yeah.
It's too expensive to buy a house. I can't buy a house.
Yeah.
So I won't. And I don't. And I won't research it and I won't learn. And that's what I think I want to do and I want to help is educate people so that they understand that they can afford it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you may have to live in a place, and I'm not saying forever. This can be only for a short amount of time, but maybe while you build your equity, you're living a little farther away from your family, but you can eventually come back once you build equity and have some money. And it's the thinking. It's if they're thinking that they can't afford it. Well, look, you just told us that there's homes under 400,000, meaning if maybe it's just a single person, maybe it's a one income person that they're thinking, wow, I can now afford my own home, but I just have to drive a little bit.
Yeah.
It's basically making it accessible to all people.
So also when you look at affordability, one thing that people look at is home price. Home price is fine to look at, and it's one thing to pay attention to, but when you're really looking at affordability, you're looking at what are your monthly payments. So when you talk affordability, what is affordability? For me, that's month to month. What am I paying? What's coming out? It doesn't really matter what the purchase price. What matters is what are you paying per month and are you comfortable with that payment? Because there's a lot of people in California and they have to live somewhere.
Yep.
So pay this $2,000 in rent, which is not an outrageous number to think of by any means in anywhere in California.
It's pretty normal. Or
pay $1,500 in a mortgage, and yeah, you have to live outside of LA. You have to, it's an hour drive into your work, but you own the home, which is a huge advantage. You have space. You have bigger homes up here. You have areas where you can get some land. You can get some property, and we're not built right on top of each other. And there's not 10 million people like there is in LA, or however many people there are in LA.
Yeah, it's comfortable. I think it's more. Yeah, that's definitely the way to put that.
And easily, Santa Clarita could easily cost you $600,000
for a 2-bedroom.
Yeah, I know there's condos at what you would pay for a condo in the Santa Clarita Valley. You could come up here and buy probably a 2,500 square foot house. Even our prices are even up, and they're not what Santa Clarita is, or the San Fernando Valley, or LA, or I sold one a couple years ago. It was in Compton, and it was under 1,000 square feet. It was like 980, I think, and it was beat to hell. You guys, it was destroyed. It was an absolute investment property, absolute flip. We sold that for $280,000.
Wow.
Under 1,000 square feet, beat up, all that, and he was gonna flip it for like 400 or something crazy. And it was like a 2-bedroom. It's like a 2 and 2.
And it's how close it is to Los Angeles. They're looking at the. Woo!
People move to big cities because that's where the jobs are at right now, or that's where the stuff is all at. So.
There's so much potential with flipping.
Yeah.
I see it there. But yeah, you mentioned so you're paying. I think the number you used was $1,500 a month, and the sales price does matter in the fact that how long do you want to be paying the $1,500 for?
Yeah.
So I see your point there, but and look at it in the short term. Do you want to pay the $2,000 in rent that you're just going to throw away and have nothing to show for it, or pay the $1,500 a month, as you're saying, with the mortgage, and you're not throwing it away every month, you're actually throwing it at yourself.
Yeah.
You're gaining equity.
So the reason I talk about not worrying too much about the purchase price is most people are taking a 30-year loan. Right? Most of you are taking a 30-year loan. I hope you know that. Some don't, surprisingly, but it's a 30-year loan. Most Californians move every 5 to 7 years. 5 to 7 seems to be the average when Californians make a move. We don't seem to sit in our properties. Like in the East Coast, it's not as high. People tend to sit in their properties a little bit longer.
Oh, that's interesting.
And hold on to properties and pass them down and stuff like that. California's not like that.
Well, I see, for California specifically, growing. I guess this could be anywhere, but as your families grow or get smaller, if they go to college, that's why I justify the 5 to 7 year move.
Yeah.
In my head.
But we have more people moving out of California right now than moving in, but there's still plenty of people here. We still have a ton of people, and we still have people coming in. So, one of the things, so the Antelope Valley is mostly sustained by the aerospace engineering industry. So we're just south of Edwards Air Force Base. So we do a lot of VA here. We have a lot of vets. We also have, NASA has one of their things here. Northrop is here. Boeing. All the ones that build the planes and jets for the military are here. And so we have a lot of engineers and people that work at those places. So that really is one of our sustaining factors. And it's really kind of a sense of pride for our community. If you go down to Lancaster Boulevard, you'll see murals of test pilots. If you go to, we have a minor league baseball team here called the Jethawks. So Jethawks.
I have seen the there's an airplane museum.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah. We've got a couple different things. It's a very big deal out here.
I thought that was pretty
cool. Our community, kind of sense of pride for our community.
And you can go see where, like, our history too. I think it's an actual Air Force plane.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
So there's ones, a lot of people end up here because of those jobs, or Edwards. They got transferred into Edwards.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, there's plenty of jobs here too. Not, if you want to come here, and department stores, grocery stores, post office, teachers, dental assistants, it's like it's a full, community running.
So Lancaster's working really hard on Lancaster Boulevard. They're trying to make it that, like, the downtown area. And they've got some good restaurants and shops and stuff down there. They're building it up. Palmdale has, basically where our office is at. It's 10th Street West and Palmdale Boulevard. It's where the mall is. There's a bunch of shops and restaurants and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's kind of the center of town. I would call it the
nice.
center of town. There's quite a few there's a couple golf courses out here. We have 2 big ones in Palmdale. We don't have a big one in Lancaster, and then some smaller ones spread throughout Lancaster and Palmdale.
Yeah, that's a goal of mine. I keep seeing all these golf courses out here. They're nice, so I want to learn how to golf.
Yeah.
That's something I'll be trying soon. So we'll see how that goes.
So why else do you think someone should? Why should they buy, and why should they buy up here? Why would you buy up here?
Because I can. Because I feel like it's attainable.
Yeah.
Why else? That's a good question. Let me think about that. Why would somebody want to buy in Palmdale and
Or
Lancaster? How about your dollar goes farther here? Yeah. Maybe your $1, like if you wanted to buy a home in Northern California, let's say in Oakland, California, your dollar may not go as far. Long term, kind of look at the big picture.
So my parents moved here in 1984, right after they got married, and they already had my oldest 2 siblings were already there, and so they needed space, right? And my grandma told them about Palmdale, and it hadn't grown as far west as it is now, but in 1984. They could get a 2-story, 2,000 square foot house for however much they paid for it, and they needed the bedrooms, right? Because they were gonna have more kids. They needed a yard for the dog. Like, they needed the space, and that's why people moved up here. Is you could get a 2,000 square foot, 3,000 square foot house, 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms. We have these up here available and they're not $1 million. They're not $500,000. They're $300,000, or they're $250,000 if you're in East Lancaster, or they're whatever. But they're not the expensive Southern California prices. I mean, it's why my family got up here. The only reason we eventually moved out of that one was I think they lost that one in the Northridge earthquake.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it ended up being close enough that it did damage to the foundation.
That's interesting. You bring up a few points.
Oh, by the way, we have earthquakes.
Yeah, we have a few. And we can have an episode later too about insurance and how earthquake.
California, if you're gonna move to California, California has fires and earthquakes. That's what we have. That's pretty much what you gotta watch out for. Is fires and earthquakes. So.
Just how to be safe and.
Yeah.
But you bring up a good point into when I hear stories about people who have bought in the 80s and bought in the 90s. If they didn't refinance, if they paid every mortgage every month, it's paid off.
Yeah.
Which means that you don't have rent or you don't have mortgage.
Yeah.
That biggest expense is gone.
Yeah.
And when I realized that, I'm like, whoa. Buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate.
Yeah.
And that's a quote. I forget his name. Something Rogers. Because I wrote an article on LinkedIn the other day. I thought that was cool. I thought, let me jot down some of my real estate notes and thoughts. And because over time, that's what it does. It's not get rich quick.
Yeah.
It's pay down a debt so that you own it.
Yeah.
Whether it's you or renters, you're paying yourself. You're investing. Yeah. I always say like you invest in yourself, and that's what I mean. It's like own it. Or another quote is. You probably know who the author of this quote. Buy land because they're not making it anymore. Yeah. Do you know who the quote of that guy is? No. So we're gonna have some show notes and we're gonna put it in there. They're not making land anymore. We're just trading, and so maybe, you're working extra to.
Mark Twain.
Yeah. There we go. So you're making money to get more land. Yeah. Yeah, they're not in factories like making it or they're not just printing more money because we need it.
So a lot of times you get, I just had this question. It's funny that it popped in my head. I just had this question yesterday. I was getting a haircut, and the stylist asked me, "Oh, do you think the market's going to drop?" Well, what I mean by market drop and what they mean by market drop are probably separate things. As a realtor, when I talk about a market drop, when I talk about a market change or a shift or a correction, I'm talking about just that, a correction. Is prices got too high, people couldn't afford it anymore, so prices came back to the buyer pool, right? Simple supply and demand kind of stuff. I simply mean that they're going from $320,000 to maybe $300,000, or the average sales price goes $300 to $280. That's not a crash. That's not a drop. That's a correction. What I think the community or society means by anybody outside of real estate means by a market drop is the same crash that happened in 2008. Is the market going to plummet? A lot of people are going, oh, that's when I'll buy because then I'll get the best price. The problem is. What a market crash does to the economy is devastating. So, do I think the market's going to crash anytime soon? No. All indicators are saying no, it's not going to crash anytime soon.
But it will, but if it crashes, what if the job goes? What if your job goes with that? And you thought, oh, I could buy a home, but now because of the job loss, or the job reduction from the company, now that's why nobody can afford it. So all these homes are sitting on the market. So it's not like, oh, the prices are just going to drop and everyone's going to go like, oh, go get in line to buy, because their means are now jeopardized in some way.
Now I sold in that crashed market. So 2011 is when we really started selling, and then right about 2014 when prices started to rebound. Everybody could buy because prices were so low that a bunch of people were qualifying. The problem was there was only so much available, and there were so many people in the qualified category that you were always in multiple offer situations. So you were always negotiating against 5 or 6 other people, it felt like. And you always kind of just followed each other from house to house. So do I think it's going to crash? No. All indicators are saying no. It's not going to crash.
And on that note, I think they fixed a lot of the... let's make the loan requirements stricter. Yeah. So they're not being lenient.
Could it correct? Possibly. But I get a lot of,
nobody knows.
I'm going to wait. Well, we have indicators. No one knows specifically, but we can make...
Patterns. We can look at patterns and
trends. We can make educated guesses. And all educated
Cross
guesses
our fingers.
Yeah, that's what we hope is happening. The biggest indicator is whatever the federal government does with the interest rate.
You're paying attention to that.
Yeah.
That's been going down.
Yeah, so that means more and more people are going to be able to qualify when they drop that. Things change, right? But why is it a good time now to buy? Well, why she's talking about not waiting, and this is why it came up, is here's why I wouldn't wait. The price, the payment difference between $300,000 and $280,000 over the course of a 30-year loan is honestly not that much.
Tiny.
It's very little.
Tiny, because it's spread out over 30 years.
The cost difference between your interest rate changing is a much bigger deal for your monthly payment. So the difference between 3.5% and 4% is a much bigger deal
of money that you're paying.
Yeah, of actual monthly payment money. So it's a good time now to buy because yes, prices are up, but they're not so ridiculously high that you'll never see equity. Like people who bought in 2005, 2006, 2007 probably will never see equity in their home until they pay it down.
True.
Because the prices were just ridiculously high. We're not at a ridiculous point where we'll never see equity again, and our interest rates are still low enough. If you can afford the monthly payment, it's better to own a home. All indicators say it's better to own a home. It's better for your neighborhood. It's better for you. It's better for your children. So they've done studies that people who come from home ownership homes score better on tests. They have better mental health. They are considered happier. They do better in school. They seem to have more friends and seem to be more like
all positive.
All positives point towards areas where you have higher home ownership. You obviously have pride of ownership, so people take care of their neighborhoods. You have less crime. You have better schools.
Well, here's the mindset that I think some people have, but I can't afford it, and that's maybe why we're launching this podcast to give information and say, hey, let's think about this in a different way.
Yeah. Kind
of thing, kind of change your mindset.
So follow us on one of the social medias, mostly me on the social medias. You don't have to follow her. Follow me. I want to know, if you guys have listened to this, what does I can't afford it mean to you? Right? And Robert Kiyosaki in Rich Dad, Poor Dad always said he never allowed, I can't afford it, right?
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, yeah, they have this mindset of, I can afford it, instead of having, coming up to it like, how can I afford it?
Yeah. And
that makes your mind think of ways to get to the end line, instead of just stopping and not even going into the creative phase. How can I figure it out?
Like he
I love Robert Kiyosaki.
In Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he goes, changing the mindset to how can I afford it, forces your financial genius to come out. We all know there's a way we can afford it. We all know there's a way we can be better with our money. It's just how. And then make that the plan. Now,
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to talk about money. I mean, we have our discussions about money, I think, and they don't happen at every table, or they don't.
They pop up when we're reading a book on it or something's going on, and we'll bounce ideas off each other. But we do bring it up, like how much we're going to make. More importantly, how much are we going to keep? Right? It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. But when you talk about affordability, so this whole first podcast is why should I buy a house? And kind of introducing you to us in the Antelope Valley.
Mostly
affordability is, it's, where was I going? It was, why should I buy a home? We know all the factors there, but
how can I afford it?
There's down payment assistance programs. There's from the state. There's from the lender. You can get a gift. You can, you can buy.
You can not spend.
Yeah, you can save up your money, and if you get a bigger down payment, you can change your interest rates before you start paying down on cards and credit cards and stuff like that to change your credit score. Talk to a lender first, because paying off certain things certain ways does better for your credit score than others. See, people will make big pay off things. They don't necessarily want to see you can pay things off. They want to see that you can make consistent payments.
Monthly.
So talk to a lender before you do that, going, how can I increase my credit score?
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
we're going to have to introduce our listeners to Keller Mortgage.
Yeah, and out here in Lancaster, Palmdale, if you go outside of the city limits, so you go into Roseman and some of the outside areas, you can get what's called USDA loan. It's a Department of Agricultural loan. It'll help you with your down payment and closing costs. So the idea that I can't afford it means you haven't been presented all of the options, which means you need to talk to us as your realtor and have us present you all the options. Because I just had this yesterday where they're like, oh, we can't really afford it. The hairstylist was saying, I can't really afford it right now, or we're doing all this stuff. I told her all of the options. I started presenting different options, and she's like, I didn't even know those were a thing.
And this is why I love real estate. Each situation is different.
Yeah.
So depending, and say I'm talking to a client, and oh, by the way, I used to serve in the military. Well, then a whole bunch of doors open up.
Yeah.
Something, the VA loan, and no money down. I don't have access to that. But maybe in a conversation with a client that I'm speaking to, they may not even know that that's available to them. So
we'll do a full episode on VA loans, because VAs are treated a certain way by people, and they shouldn't be treated that way. There's a lot of misconceptions about a VA loan, and so what we'll do is we'll bring in a lender or something, and we'll have them sit down, or maybe we'll just do some research and talk a little bit about VA loans, because there's definitely some misconceptions about loans and everything. We'll do full episodes on solar.
Oh yeah,
we'll definitely do an episode on solar, you guys.
A lot. So we'll leave it at that.
Talk to your realtor before you do anything with solar. But we're gonna do a full episode on what a realtor does, what we do for you, why you should use us. Some quick ideas is we're the experts in the area, right? We understand the contracts, we understand the market, we understand things like solar, we understand things like trends, we understand things like who to get in touch of if we don't know the answer. So title, escrow, lending, home warranties. There's a lot of misconceptions about home warranties and what they do and don't cover. There's natural hazard disclosures. There's insurance you have to have if you're in a flood zone or a fire zone or a seismic zone. Spoiler alert, if you're in California, you're in a seismic or fire zone. That's just how our state works. There are places where you can't get fire insurance because you're in such a dangerous fire area. There's parts in the Antelope Valley, and we're a dry desert where we're flood zones simply because of how the valley is situated and where your house is. And I've seen it where I helped one person buy on one side of the street and they were in the flood zone, and the other side of the street isn't.
And that will require a little bit more insurance. So
Yeah.
I think insurance too is something. But thank you for listening, and you can find me on Instagram. My @ name is Realtor Trizuto. REALTOR
Can I clarify something, by the way?
Sure.
It's Realtor. Realtor.
And I think
Not Realtor. Realtor. Realtor.
So find me on Instagram. What's your Instagram name?
Instagram is James Talbot Realtor. Just like, I think there might be a dot in there.
We can put that in show notes too.
Well, this might go up on YouTube as well, so it'll be down in the description. So it'll be down there in the description. I'll link all of them. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube.
TikTok.
Hit subscribe. She's on TikTok. We're on all of them. Please, if you guys have any real estate questions, let us know. We're more than happy to answer them.
Because we're real realtors, and we're here to give it to you real and
This is
educate.
This has been the Real Real Estate Rundown by Real Realtors.